Today I'm in the workshop getting ready to do some work. Just a reminder, I'm not sponsored by anyone, and today I'm not sponsored by Powermatic. This thickness planer is an 18-inch Powermatic machine that I love. I'm going to run strips of wood that I'll show you in a second over there from the top of that table through the thickness planer onto that board, and then I'll move them over here. I've run 4. They're 3/4 of an inch thick, and I use these, as I've said in earlier videos, to space slabs of wood that I'm going to saw on my bandsaw sawmill so they air dry to a constant thickness and don't warp, twist, or bend. So on this pile of lumber, these sticks are ones that I ran on my joiner over there earlier, and the top side has been smoothed down, and that's the side that will go down on the infeed on the thickness planer, and then they'll come out at 3/4 of an inch thick. That's what I've got it set for over here on this scale, 3/4 of an inch, and I've actually used a Starrett gauge here to measure. I got exactly 3/4 of an inch. Some of them are a little thick. I won't be doing them. I'll set them aside. This one and this one especially. Most of them are poplar. I've separated red and white oak pieces that I'm going to make cutting boards, and I got a few more down here at the bottom. So I'll be running the top and bottom ones through the thickness planer. The dust collector will be turned on, and the air hose connects, draws a significant amount of the chips away from the machine, but you can still see there's going to be a buildup of chips. So I'm going to be moving sticks from this table over to this table after they've been thickness planed, and we'll get going here. So after running a few of these sticks through, I found that I was pushing a little bit too hard to get them to go. So what I'm going to do, this is in a several step operation. These are even too thick for my thickness planer. This one is 1.5 inches thick. So what I'm going to do is a couple of steps on this. I'll change this. I've already moved it to a little more than 1 inch thick. I'm going to do a few passes on these really thick ones. And then I'm going to run them all through, I think, one time to make sure they're a little under 1 inch, and then to go from 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch thickness as the final pass will be what I'll do. If they can't feed through, there's no point in forcing them too much. So that's what I'm going to do, is several step operation, and I'll come back once in video once I make the final pass through so they can feed effectively. So I'm done with my first run through. None left on the top or bottom shelf. I still have the oak ones on the middle shelf. But what you're going to see here, I'm going to show you, this is about 1 inch thick, and some of them are thinner than that. So you can see where it's planed, and here it's thinner, and it hasn't, the knives haven't touched it. Some of these are so thin they didn't get touched at all. But I'll run them through again. And this time, hopefully, they'll be thin enough that I can go from the 1 inch that they are now, or a little less, to 3/4 of an inch, and we'll see how that goes. But what's amazing is how much wood chip sawdust this creates. You can see on the table here, the outfeed table, and then the bag over here. I've got to take some time now and empty it. It's completely full of wood chips. So I gotta stop, empty that, and then we'll start again. So after emptying the bag out and doing a trial cut or two, I've moved all the pieces back over here on the top. They're ready to go again. I've recalibrated the height so that it should be exactly 3/4 of an inch. And this is what the finished product will look like. All these are the same height, 3/4 of an inch. What you notice is some of these are like 1 inch wide, and some of these random boards that I get from the sawmill, from the hardwood lumber store, are much wider. So what I'm going to do is this is too wide. Just I can get 2 out of this. That'd be, you know, 1 inch thick instead of, or inch wide instead of 2 inches wide. So I'll sort these out later after I've thickness planed them to the 3/4 of an inch, and then the wider ones I'm gonna rip on the bandsaw to get 2 out of that. So I'll effectively double my quantities. So I'm going to get ready to set up and continue running. Hopefully one more pass will do it. A few of these are actually maybe thinner than 3/4 of an inch. So when you see me running them, and if they don't seem to be, if I have to push them through, it's because they are too thin, and I may have to not be able to use them because they're too thin. But I'll measure them and see. But I should have, you know, in this stack alone, I probably have a little over 100 sticks, and we'll get going on that shortly. I have finished all the strips that were on the top of the cart, run them to the thickness planer, and they're now over here. And as you see, the bag, the dust collector, is about half full. The next thing I'm going to do is back over here on top of the table, so I'll have a lot more strips. I'm going to sort them out like I did before. I'll run them over the joiner, but then like I did with these, I'm going to sort out the oak strips and save them for cutting boards, as I mentioned before. And all the rest will probably go through the thickness planer to be sticks for later. So that's it, more later.